He's very nice.
Yeah.
And that's how we got sued. Good job.
We were not talking about.
Don't even say. I was like, so far we haven't been outed. It's a joke, but you're about to be real. So
he's gonna demonetize us. Holy shit!
No.
Welcome to the Dresden Files podcast.
What's that?
Oh yes, welcome to the Dresden Files podcast. Right.
Oh my god, man, it's been like 4 minutes.
I noticed that it was live. I just forgot what I was supposed to go.
Wait, what podcast am I doing? How many am I doing?
I don't know. I'm just hanging out with my friends.
How high are you?
We're gonna go ahead and do Skin Game today, but do we have any news?
I don't think so.
You lied, Justin.
Wait,
because last time you said in 2 weeks we will have news. It's been 2 weeks. We have no news. You lied.
I lie all the time. What did I lie about? I don't remember even saying the words. That's the worst part.
News. There are no news.
Hold on.
I thought there was it wasn't an official announcement or anything, but I think he.
Oh yeah, didn't he say he was going to say something?
Well, there was that, but I think he's scheduled for one of the cons, like the Emerald City Con in March.
Right.
Now.
Isn't he always though?
Look, it's news. It's not at all what I had in mind.
Well,
but,
yeah, I mean, there's certain ones that he's consistent for, but you can't.
Yeah, he always goes to Dragon Con. I thought he pretty much always goes to the Emerald City one.
I thought this was his first time, which is why everybody's like, "Oh my god, he's going."
Whatever it is, supposedly he's going to that. So anyone in the Emerald City in March, feel free to go.
Which is Portland, right?
Sure, why not?
But super West Coast, and you're out there.
Okay. Portland, Oregon. Okay, very good.
You got something to do direct. You can
Portland,
take Ben on an outing.
Did you really think Portland, Maine before Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
I mean, seriously.
He clearly did.
Are you reading
Yes,
Stephen
it's
King?
a possibility.
That's the only time that happens.
How high are you, Ben?
I live in California, but the contact high is not that much. Okay. What are you talking about? Anyway, so Skin Game. It starts off with parkour.
Does it?
Indeed.
I don't know. I'm just
it's the only time.
Rolling. I'm trying to shove this giant rock up a hill.
I'm just saying,
episode 1 of 37. Really, you're going to start in with Sisyphus already? Spoilers, man. Seriously, good job.
Best book
ever written.
Okay, I don't know. I've been reading the first law. They're pretty
so
good.
Far.
It is easily the top 10. It's easily the top 10 Dresden Files novels.
I'd go as far as to say it's in the top 15.
I'd go so far as to say it's in the top 1.
I think it's in the top 23 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So Ben, you started us off. So go on with your parkour.
Yay.
Would you like to reenact the line for us?
Parkour! Yeah, anyway. But the best part about this early thing, I want to give a shout out to James Barsters, as always.
Really?
His reading. Oh yeah, his reading of the different voices that Harry finds in the underground crystal cavern full of evil demon people. And it's hilarious. His line reading of everyone is just
of all this stupid shit, it bugs me how he calls out parkour. But other than that, I agree with you. So because I think what happens is I got it in my brain from when Jim read the first 4 chapters or whatever. And so I've always thought him carrying the R longer, whereas Marsters is just parkour and then it's done. It just.
And how does Jim do it?
He carries the R longer, so it's more like parkour. You're dragging out the last syllable. So.
I'm pretty sure he just says it like Michael Scott, quite honestly.
Right, which I've heard that, but since I've seen that clip and that's about it of the show, then anyway. So yes, all the demons. He's fucking using the crystal of demons and outsiders as fucking parkour, which is crazy.
In the 13 tunnels of Demon Reach.
Right. Because we got to bring up that continuity issue again. So
yeah,
well, we said this the last time we brought it up that it
he's
changed.
Been there a year. He made a 13th tunnel. So
he's been busy that year catching things.
Yeah.
Because when the light is green, the trap is clean.
Wouldn't that be nice if he was actually doing his job as warden and capturing things?
The family business.
Instead of just sitting and waiting for his head to explode.
Yeah, that.
Look,
he made a staff
in Lacuna.
Yeah, I just pictured out.
He sent them out with messages to his friends, not to capture anyone.
Well, Harry Dresden.
Well, no, but I mean, just sitting there. Yeah.
Harry Dresden at What's Up, Doc, and the wardens show up, dropping off or picking up, dropping off.
Right. That's funny, actually. I want to see that now. So he does the parkour. He gets solicited and threatened and cajoled and whatever else. And then, somebody tells him to bugger off. And he's like, you what? You what?
Yeah.
Me?
So you're not like trying to kill me or seduce me or anything. You just want me to go away. That's weird. And
Right.
he's been there for a year and hasn't run into this person yet.
There's 13 tunnels. There's a lot going on.
And
Well, he
he's
also
done
says
one
that as
tunnel
long
a
as-
month.
As long as he's running, it's when he's walking that the voice is really. As long as he's running, he passes the mounds quick enough that they don't start creeping in.
Also true.
Which, and let's face it, he says as much that he, as a rule, he doesn't talk to or listen to these things. So once he's
Well,
figured
he
out,
says that right when he decides to talk to one of them.
well, yes,
Right.
but that's because that
It's
guy's,
Harry.
he's now something for everyone to chew over for 5 years until we find out that he's,
It was a throwaway. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious. But
If it's anybody, Jack the Ripper. If it's anybody.
you guys are nuts. Dude, stop it with the mortal bullshit. The Nagloshi are the least. So if it's a normal fucking serial killer, like unless Jack the Ripper's got 12 mantles that we don't know about, he's not gonna just be a fucking mortal.
yeah.
You could stretch the Merlin thing because clearly the Merlin has like fifth dimensional magic, which, Harry's like, this isn't even possible. And he's playing by the same rules that I am. I could see something like that. But for fuck's sake, he's not like, I killed 3.5 prostitutes and got away with it one time in the 1700s. Like, come on.
I love
Sorry.
how that pushed a button. That was
I don't know why. It was just like, are you kidding me right now?
I mean,
it's-
he's not wrong.
Right?
it is-
EG's
I
over
know.
here like, finally, somebody says the truth.
I mean, I had a pet. I like the idea that he was someone like Aleister Crowley, but I know logically that he would have had to have like started obtaining the power of a dark god to even be considered being thrown in there, which is not impossible, but it's probably not someone who was just a relatively famous occultist in the 1900s.
Let's use
Kemmler?
another litmus test, right? So maybe Kemmler, right? Goodman fucking Gray is a knockoff Nagloshi, okay? And how fucking powerful is he right now? So again, unless Jack the Ripper was something other than a normal dude, there's no reason I could see. Or he just pissed off the warden at the time. The warden's like, you know what? All you monsters, and fuck you in particular. Yeah.
It was a very personal.
Right?
It is a time-honored sci-fi fantasy trope that no mythos is complete without Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper's in Star Trek, Jack the Ripper's in Babylon 5, and Jack the Ripper's in Dresden Files. So he might as well be there.
He's not in Star Wars unless you count Kathleen Kennedy on the outside doing it to this franchise.
Oh,
well,
That's
it was
right.
a nice run while we had it.
spice the meatball.
Right.
Oh wow.
I was wondering how we were going to work those memes back in, but here we are.
Couldn't be helped.
Okay, so anyway, so we've spent 15 minutes talking about this fucking asshole for 5 years. He talks to him. The voice basically says, I'm supposed to be here, and then Harry falls over. Now, this part is somewhat important because at the time, I thought that the creature was attacking him, but it's actually related to the parasite, which is not the thing in the bin. It's
the thing in his head.
it's the parasite. So
Yeah.
So Alfred shows up, and he gets
So-
named right now.
Do we
Nope.
want to like reveal all spoilers as we go for this one?
I mean, we're gonna, aren't we?
I was going to say,
Yes.
theoretically,
So-
everyone who's watched this knows all.
Yeah, I mean, if
God,
you,
it's been 5 years. I think we're past the statute of limitations.
It's been 5 fucking years.
At the Dresden Files podcast, we sometimes swear. Thank you.
and
it's
we're
been a
going to
public service
spoil
announcement.
everything.
Well, and for this one, it especially makes sense. What with the super duper code talk
Right.
stuff. Yeah,
So
that was like 5 times.
we've been saying parasite because that's the word that Harry has to use for half the book and the last book as well. But it's also his second baby.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that's
Okay.
all he knows it as at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
We even know her name, and we know she likes pancakes.
Or that she realizes that pancakes aren't people.
Right, which is an important thing. I mean, yeah, and we were going to have to talk about it in about 25 more hours anyway when we get to the Mab talks to Harry on the dock part, which is in 15 minutes of real time in the book. But yeah, I mean, because she talks about like, anyway, we'll get there. So yeah, Alfred shows up, suppresses Bonnie. Should we just call her Bonnie the whole time now?
Might as well.
As spoilers. So suppresses the parasite in his head that he doesn't know yet, and then gets named, and he's like Alfred, and he's like, okay, Alfred Demon Reach. We'll give him a full proper name.
Yeah, like it is funny when he was standing there going like, I am the island. I am also not the island. There needs to be a difference. Right. He's growing.
Alfred wants his independence.
I don't think he cares, but I mean, it is kind of a distinction. Like he is the guard and he's the island, and
Well, it's entirely possible that by being given a name, names always have super significance, even in the Dresden Files.
Especially given by Harry.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not ever given come name. Back up.
It's a little potential plot hook that might go nowhere. You can never know. Well, it's like Toot being given all this stuff. He's become a big fat fairy now. Whereas maybe Alfred Demon Reach will start getting some kind of self-awareness beyond what he used to have, because Harry's just that clueless about how to interact with these ultra-powerful beings.
Well, I think it's one of two things, and maybe both. That he's going to be able to more freely communicate with Demon Reach, which he already seems able to do on some level, instead of just getting psychically blasted every time. And B, it might give him a measure of independence from the island, so he's able to act more like he did in Ghost Story, and he's able to leave the island. Whether he's obviously not going to be able to take his powers or whatever, but like, let's add Alfred to the Scoobies just because that'll bug EG to mention that. But I could see that in 5 more books. What's that going to look like? So because here we've already got one. We got 1 book. So, but.
Yeah. And then Alfred says she is here, and he thinks it's Molly. And Alfred says, not Grasshopper. Grasshopper's new mother.
Right.
Because his concept of names and identities is also really weird.
Because Harry, but yeah. But I do appreciate the fact that he knows that Molly is Grasshopper.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Harry's just been telling him like his entire life story for a year, because who else is he going to talk to?
Well, he knew it the last book too.
Yeah, he said that in the beginning of
about the
Cold Days.
About the parasite.
True. That's true. Yep.
It's like he pulled it right out of Harry's head of like, that is what she is. She is Grasshopper. Even though he recognizes the name Molly, he's just, nope, she is Grasshopper.
Is Grasshopper a mantle? You're welcome.
Yes, it is.
My God, Holmes.
Please expound on that a little.
That's how she's going to get away from the winter mantle and maintain her humanity.
She's going to create her own mantle of Grasshopper.
Become a locust.
She already has her own. She already has her own mantle.
No,
she's Rag Lady. Rag Lady's a mantle.
Stop it.
Also,
Rag Lady is irrelevant. Rag Lady doesn't mean shit anymore.
And she's the oldest, which is a mantle. So
right.
EG?
Yes, she's eldest Carpenter. That's true. When she dies, it goes to who's next? Daniel,
right?
So Daniel becomes the Winter Lady and eldest Carpenter. We've solved the puzzle, everyone.
This is why we can't get anything done. So part 1 of episode 37.
I mean, we could have been talking about bacon. At least we were staying on topic.
No, we did that. Bacon is not on topic.
I was like, how would we work bacon into this?
We were staying on Dresden.
That reminds me of Francis Bacon.
Can you mute him?
Yeah,
hey, quiet.
Okay, so I mean, he doesn't do anything else before he goes and talks to Mab, right?
No.
Right. So he just goes up.
He talks about
the many steps.
Right.
With a headache.
Right.
And then they try to go and intimidate her, which doesn't really work.
Yeah, she's like, look, bitch, you tried that a year ago. I'm over it. So,
mm-hmm.
And then she like full on, like, isn't she hovering on the island and then?
No, she's standing on the dock.
Okay.
Yeah, she steps right to the edge of it.
Okay, so she doesn't touch down this time.
Mm-hmm.
She starts off it, and then when they go macho mano, she steps on it and she's like, try me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the part that I was remembering, especially because it's like, you've already tried to intimidate me with this, and we already know that you blinked, so I'm cool doing it again. It's like,
also, it doesn't solve any of his problems, which she's now made him aware of, and so he's like, fuck, I can't do it.
Right. And again, do you want Molly, the new Winter Lady, to have to take all this shit over? No. So,
would you like your head to explode?
Right. So she gives him some really cool jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
that he didn't have a
left
piercing
ear.
for, so that was new.
And it's got to go in the left ear because it's a mortal thing.
Yeah. I really like this exchange between them, though, because it was him being clever and her being cleverer.
Right. So, Ben, can you explain the whole like left ear thing for the other people?
Oh, yeah. EG was telling me about it. In his culture, if you have it on the wrong ear, they think you're straight or gay.
I was like, why do we got to stretch that out there?
That's all I got.
I didn't realize you needed me to tell you what cultural things are involved with the left earring.
I've always heard conflicting things. Like when I was in high school, people kept telling me that it was on your right ear then you were gay, but he really cared about or whatever. I've been told the wrong things all the time.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's really a thing. It has a category of urban legend, but it might be like a self-fulfilling urban legend.
Sure, some
and it's probably it's probably pretty funny to tell people the wrong ears, so then they're like, "Oh my God, you're gay," and then.
But then, like, enough people do it, and then it no longer has meaning. Just get
right.
If you want jewelry, just have jewelry. Dear God.
But if you have a belly button piercing, you're basic. That's it. Wait, what?
Whoa.
Whatever. Anyway,
so what are you saying about
I don't even need to go down.
We have found out so many things about Ben this podcast.
Ben and Maeve, so.
Well, she was pretty fucking basic.
Yeah, so Mab tells him he's going to be dead in 3 days to close the gap on that, and then they bitch about how like his friends haven't come to see him, and it's because she's intercepted Toot and Lacuna every time he sent them out, which is important. He's using them both like in the same sentence, so it's like they may be equal, rank and equal utility for him. And then they go to see Nicodemus.
Yay!
The Carbon and Carbide buildings where they go, right?
What's with the yay?
Because we're excited to progress. We're on chapter 2.
No, it's a plot point. It's great.
Sure. I misunderstood it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm Nicodemus, a swell guy.
I mean, I'm fine with Nicodemus. I don't like lionize him as one of the greatest villains in this series, but I enjoy him.
Yeah,
honestly, I think he's kind of overrated. He gets his ass handed to him every time. So
it's
foiled by Harry Dresden, who has yet to ask what is a Starborn.
I mean, seriously, at some point when we've got mounting evidence now that Nicodemus is just like, as long as you're semi-competent, you should be able to handle him.
Except that repeatedly people can't, and that until this book again, they kind of mention that, but they don't mention it until the very end practically, that Nicodemus still has never even gone to his bench. He's never leaned on Enduriel the same way that any of the other Fallen have. So Nicodemus has been kicking people's ass for 2,000 years, and he's never even used magic to do it.
Yeah, but he did do that at the end of the book, right?
That's what I'm saying, is that Harry finally pushed him past his breaking point.
It wasn't Harry, though.
Do we want to have this now, or do we want to go through the book? Like,
well, it's like that's not
Harry's the guy in charge, so all of his vassals and employees.
He would have used magic in the second time where he's being strangled, but the sword is there, so he's like, Enduriel can't.
No, and that's not it either, though. The point being is that Enduriel isn't that guy. Enduriel is even more of a shadow man than Uriel is, which is also, a point that I'll bring up at some point. But it's like, I finally had an epiphany and realized how stupid I am, that Enduriel and Uriel probably share a pretty similar root, Doi.
Probably.
Because we've been like, oh, what do all the angel names mean and all this other stuff, and it's like Enduriel, Uriel, those are really fucking close. I bet you one of them's Mr. Sunshine and the other one's the opposite of that.
Mr. Not Sunshine.
Are you saying Mr. Sunshine's opposite is like shadow based?
Yes, that the shadow of God might,
sure, why
have
not?
something to do with it.
Anyway, see, like I said, I got notes. We got spoilers. Do we want to do this now, or do we want to go through the book?
Whatever. Who says we have structure?
All right, so here we go. Starting from number 10. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so they're at a big, giant building, the Carbide and Carbon building, whatever that one is. You can go look it up.
One of the bigger ones in Chicago, just saying.
Yay.
It's important.
And then they go all the way up beyond where the elevator says it can go.
Oh, I missed that detail.
Yeah, it's like it goes all the way up to the numbers and then it goes past the numbers.
Nice.
And then there's some thug lackeys that want to make Mab introduce herself, and Harry, as her thug, says, no, she doesn't deal with lackeys.
He freezes them and is like, the lady doesn't do lackeys.
Yeah.
Which he makes frost on their clothes.
They're but I mean, that's underselling it. It's not like he gave them a frosty mug. It was like they had to like break out of their frozen clothes to go do stuff, but the rereading my notes on this made me realize, I think, why I like Skin Game Harry so much is because this is one of the first times we've actually been able to see him not hold back. Because there are multiple times he even mentions it, like even in the vault later, spoilers, that he can finally cut loose and not have to worry about collateral damage. And so like I realized that, like, because it was the same thing with Summer Night, for example, right? Summer Night at the end is one of the first times he gets to the end battle and hasn't had his ass kicked repeatedly throughout the entire book. This one, obviously, he does, but he's finally in a place where he can really cut loose as a wizard, and he can really be smart, and he can really throw down with people because he doesn't have to worry about, oh, well, if I burn down this building, somebody's inside, so.
It's also the first time where he seems to be kind of like a lackey, and he's fine with it, where he's kind of being used. I don't know, he's kind of fitting into the Winter Knight role super well. Like, he wants to do it, she wants him to do it, so he freezes their clothes.
They're lined up, for sure.
Right.
And I mean, he's not okay with it, but he is, he is owning the role more, like you said.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Like he still argues with Mab, right? But then Mab's like, I already know this shit. I'm pushing your buttons. Just do what I fucking told you, but exactly what I told you. And it's like, oh wait.
Yeah, that's a little bit. That's usually a little bit more behind the scenes.
I meant Summer Night. Did I say White Night?
No, you said Summer Night.
You said Summer Night. I thought you meant White Night.
No, Summer Night.
Yeah. I mean, after he does his little like ice flexing at them, he was going, well, why didn't you kill them? And it's like, I'm not killing humans. And they had this thing of like, I'm on your team, but not from your town. So he doesn't care about killing she.
I didn't get that, but I'm not into sports usually.
Also, maybe
I think it was a sports
American
reference.
Thing. Like, yeah.
Well, I think it's it's more just about being associated with somebody. I'm associated with you, but we're not buddies. We're not close. We're not the same kind of person.
It's like we work together, but we're not friends.
We're not friends. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly like that.
Yeah.
It just sounds also, a little better.
I think part of it too is like taking the town analogy further, especially with Harry, right? Like Harry tries not to burn down shit in Chicago, but if he goes to your town, he's not going to worry about which buildings he's going to burn down. He's going to get the job done, So I don't know. If he goes to Nicodemus's evil town, let's put it that way, because I'm sure he still cares about civilians and whatnot, but
If he goes to Arctis Tor, he doesn't care about burning shit down.
Right.
All right. So they get shown into a room, and then they find Nicodemus, and Harry is pissed off and rubs at him a little bit. It's like, hey, you left one of your people with a tongue.
Right.
And that dude immediately loses his tongue in a very creepy fashion.
Yeah. In like the hot, quasi-creepy, what the fuck just happened, you sick fucks. Yeah, just anyway.
Yeah.
That's like her whole thing, like especially this book. It's like, we're just really going to push the like super creepy but kind of hot but don't look at it type of thing, because like, because you still got the fact that like they made a big deal about it in previous books that like Tessa looks like she's 16 practically, and Deidre's her daughter, so like, gross. But
well, I never got the impression that Deidre actually looks younger than Tessa, just that Tessa looks forever young, and almost like Deidre decided to look older.
I mean, maybe. Let's just
she also could have been given the coin let's assume for a second Tessa was found by Nicodemus around 16, and that's when she took up the coin, so she just stayed looking like that, because that's what, as opposed to maybe they waited till Deidre was 18 for whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Something, whatever.
Yeah. So the tongue thing.
So yeah, Deidre eats Jordan's tongue, and then kisses Nicodemus with tongue.
With the blood still. You know?
Yeah.
Like, we don't even have a word. Never mind. So,
there's something about this that kind of strikes me as important on the reread. Is I know Butcher doesn't write in themes, but we have at the very beginning of the book, we have Parasite is Bonnie. That shows up basically immediately. And here we have the family brotherhood thing established and reinforced again on a reread. So this makes a lot more sense of. I've been critical before of that little last couple chapters with the second climax and the showdown at the Carpenters, but it does bring it a lot more. It does bring it home when you see how early it's the theme of family and has been set up and reinforced even 2 chapters in the book.
Why do we think Butcher doesn't write in themes? Because he totally does each book.
Well, he says he doesn't.
How does he get his names for the books except for out of the themes?
It's just what he says in interviews. I just wanted to acknowledge that people will be critical of it if I talk about themes of a book. But yeah, he absolutely does have themes. Or you can little notes that he hits. The motif of this book, I guess, would be family, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Whatever.
And I guess I could see that, because it is going to come back to that. It's kind of an important plot point a couple of times. So the whole family thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So Nicodemus wants Dresden to help him rob a vault, which doesn't make any sense because he could rob any vault in the world.
Yeah, and Mab is loaning out Dresden because she's paying back a debt to Nicodemus / Anduriel for way back when she couldn't be in 2 places at once. Right. And when Harry demands that he gets another person to watch his back, Matt points out that Deidre had gone along with Nicodemus, so this gives symmetry.
Right.
So because Deidre was there, it now hurts Nicodemus more.
Right. Well, yeah, ish, until, Harry takes Murphy along, so like, woo, Murphy.
That interaction between Nicodemus and Mab makes me think that Nicodemus has a feeling he's being played, that he knows Mab is dangerous. He just thinks that he can out dangerous Mab and he can out scheme Mab. And I think he's aware of something going on, which is a nice little touch.
He has to, because think about this, right? The reason why Mab wants Nicodemus to just get his ass beat is because of the whole Marcone thing, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So he has to know that Mab's holding a grudge. He has to know that she's going to do something. He has to know that Dresden's going to do something. But he also knows, for whatever reason, either Dresden's literally the only person who can help him, or that he's going to finally destroy Dresden or convert him once and for all. Because, think about the place Nicodemus is making, right? So he has to know all of these things. And, Nicodemus is 2,000 years old. It didn't take Harry that long to figure out how to play the sheep and to watch what he says.
And, of course, the traps were designed specifically so that Harry would be the ideal guy in the situation. Right? So we have that whole ice trap, and he's literally the ideal guy in the world to handle this. And there's a debt. And so...
Well, I guess, it all goes back to the ice gate, right? Who else in the world is going to be better equipped to handle the ice gate? Everything else is kind of incidental. Harry is able to help with all those things, but they could have found any number of other people to do it. Possibly even Asher could have helped out.
I was going to say, there's an argument to be made that if Asher goes Denarian, she could have, with her fire, dealt with the ice.
That too, but also I'm thinking opening the ways and getting into various places.
Well, that's something she and he
so.
Can't do. That's a Dresden thing. I mean, she can't.
At least his understanding up to that point, but he does acknowledge later on that it's if Nicodemus and Lashiel had spent a couple of weeks with her beforehand, she might be able to open the gate home, or at least back to the mortal plane somewhere. But yeah.
But he's been in Tempest Fugit mode, so some things slip.
Right. Lots of things slip. So, so he takes an extra pair of eyes, which I don't think we find out for 2 more chapters because reasons.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they have their argument in the elevator first.
Yes, that was fun too.
Well, and one of the things that I love about this book too is like all the one-liners. So, you know, like the goons go to follow him and he's like, "You guys fill out some kind of paperwork about how you want your remains disposed." And like that's another like just Harry being like, you know, like, "I'm not holding back. I will destroy you. You got your warning once already."
He doesn't care about the she doesn't care about hurting them. So, and Mab does absolutely nothing to stop it because she wants him to be the top thug.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, just them arguing back and forth. And he's like, "I'm not going to do it." And she's like, "It's obvious that you didn't listen very closely." And he's like, "Hold on, shit. What did I miss?"
Yeah. But wasn't that after she like smacked his head almost through the door?
Puts a dent in the elevator by smacking his head into it.
He's fine. It didn't even hurt him that bad.
He made a dent in the wall.
It's Harry. Right.
Literally.
Yep. And then she tells him a little bit more about the parasite, about if it gets free, it will seek out everyone you know and utterly destroy them utterly. And I'm like,
yeah, she's
the fairy queen, so she can't lie about that. So that's pretty much gospel truth. But like, how? Like, does she mean physically utterly destroy them?
Well, she says it would attach itself to Maggie, which is the closest thing Harry had of a reflection of Harry there is out there. So now you've got a little girl with mental issues and a spirit that's wholly ignorant of all her power and knowledge and shit, and
probably doesn't know how to not hurt someone, especially like she's growing. She can't fit in Dresden's head anymore. Is she going to fit in Maggie's head?
Well, yeah, but I mean, whatevs. So like, I don't think she's going to like try and repossess a body, right? Because
no, she's just not going to know what she's doing, and she's going to hurt them.
Right. But hurt them is different than destroy them utterly. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, like if Bob got loose and Bob went on a rampage, he would hurt some people, but he wouldn't utterly destroy them. It's like, shit, man.
But
like,
someone like Evil Bob would, and Evil Bob would do it because he would actively be seeking to do it, whereas someone like Bonnie would just be wholly ignorant of what she's doing. And then Bob probably try and make it better and screw it up more, and try and make it better and screw it up more.
Bob knows how to control himself. Bonnie doesn't know how to move her arms or legs, but she will move them, and it will hurt people to the point of destroying them.
Interesting.
You put it in all these terms, I can't help but think that of all the people in Dresden's life, Bonnie's the one who's going to die. Just because it seems like she's be set up and created for that purpose, meta-narratively. I don't know.
Everybody's going to die. We're doing... Everybody's going to be the noble sacrifice. Murphy's going to hold the line. Thomas is going to something. Harry's going to nobly sacrifice to hit the button to cancel the detonation for the.
Mister's going to take a nap. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So, I mean, again, like writing down some of Mab's direct lines kind of important because, again, she can't lie and whatever. So, you know, the whole like, you know, like, you really expect me to help him? And it's like, I expect you to fulfill my debt by carrying out my orders. After that, I expect you to be yourself. You know, which is just some great moments. And then it's like, you know, he's going to backstab me, right? And it's like, of course. And I expect superior, more creative treachery on your part. So she's like, I'm not new. I know how the game is played. Get with it, Dresden.
Well, yeah. She's delighted at the prospect of it. She calls it a game. She thought if she was a little younger, she would have loved to play in that.
Which is such a Maeve thing to say, too.
Mab, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it's a Maeve thing to say, too. So they're like mother, like daughter.
Yeah, I don't buy the fact that she ever was like, she didn't have to go through the winter lady.
Yeah, Maeve was definitely not like, she thought she's kind of like Nicodemus in his book. She thought she was smarter than she was, but she's not.
As far as relishing the treachery as a game, you know, that's
I guess,
right. But maybe that's just a winter thing.
Right.
And Harry's always been a little mischievous too. And then after this is my favorite chapter that doesn't exist until later in the book, which we can't talk about yet, can we?
Well, and it's funny because there are even a couple of sentences, right? Because it's like he goes to Murphy's house, she makes fun of the Blue Beetle. he talks about like how hands are comforting because they hold hands, and I'm like, that first thing, by the way, if you've ever been in a delivery room when hands grab you, the first thing isn't like the hands are comforting you. The first thing is you get smacked on your ass, and then comes the comforting. So because they got to make sure you're breathing. Just saying. After that, it's like, well, where have you been for the last 3 hours? Oh, I don't know. Cutting a deal with Goodman Gray and talking to freaking Santa Claus, maybe, spoilers. So, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna dissect everything literally as we go through, we might as well just like, yep, he made a deal with Kringle, Goodman Gray, and that's why he knows he's okay.
Yeah, there is still a fair bit of distrust, or Harry at least sells it very well, because that was one of the things that I tried to do this time through, as well as like catalog, when they're going through, because in the overall plot of it, Goodman Gray basically asks Harry multiple times, like, are we kicking ass now? And Harry's like, no, but like he does it in such a way that he's like, Goodman Gray, if we're gonna throw down, let's do this. And then Goodman, like, there are a couple of times he even catches Gray by surprise, even though Gray knows what the game is. I think he only knows enough. Like, I think he only knows that he's supposed to side with Nicodemus up until
he's constantly asking where his line is supposed to be with Nicodemus, and also, I mean, he's feeling Harry out because he's got to know what kind of guy he's dealing with. So,
make sure he can get the rent money.
Can I kill this person? No. Oh, okay.
Oh, damn it. Yeah.
But it would be so much more easier and practical and pragmatic. No. Fine.
Right.
Now I got to work harder.
Right.
Okay. Back to Karen, I guess. I like that she said, to Mab's credit, she's sort of asking you to do what you're good at. And even Dresden is like, what are you talking about? It's like, you trap him in a box. He finds all the ways to explode it. He is now trapped in a box. He's going to explode it. It works.
Right.
And we get to see Mister again. That was fun.
Nobody cares.
Yay. Yeah. And then Harry and Karen kind of do that thing of like, I really care about you, but I'm not going to admit it. Not really.
Which it's funny because like 3 times in the book, they have various people call them out and be like, she loves you, right? Like, that's the only reason she's here. She's not just backup. Like, Asher picks up on it, which I'm sure a big part of that has to do with Lashiel, who picked up on it, which they get called out. Was it Michael or somebody else calls him out too, and being like, come on, dude, you're an idiot. So, or maybe it was Butters. I don't remember, but one of them. So.
All of them. I mean, Thomas has been saying it for like 10 books.
Yeah, but Thomas he's a sex vampire. That's his job. So.
Yeah, so like, he's also
Thomas
able
can
to
probably feel it. He can. It's not so much as like, I caught her making eyes at you, which everybody else has seen. Thomas is like, no, I can literally feel it.
Yeah, and yet Harry doesn't listen to him until he does, and then problems.
Harry doesn't listen to anybody.
Harry doesn't listen to his id. Yeah,
he has conversations with his deepest, most gut check self, and he's like, no.
Right. Because reasons, which we'll have to cover that too. So.
Yeah, that was fun in this book.
Right. You freaking idiot. Yeah.
Really.
So they go scope out the place that they're supposed to meet, which is an abandoned slaughterhouse, which this is another repeat place too, right? Which one does this book show up in?
I don't remember.
Okay. But this is when he talks about like monsters seem to be showing up places and maybe I should start burning some buildings down, or was that also Cold Days? But in similar kind of.
That was Cold Days. That's where the Red Cap takes
the
up.
warehouse from the site.
The warehouse, which falls into the water. But
Proven Guilty was the Full Moon Garage, right?
Well, he got like almost auctioned, not the Full Moon Garage, but was this the same warehouse where they had the meeting with the White Council?
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
It was the Proven Guilty was the Summer Night Garage, I think, wasn't it?
There was
when he gets captured by Glau and Wraith. They take him.
They take him back to
They take him to the Full Moon Garage.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
But also,
but at the beginning, there's that warehouse, and then at the end, there's
right. It's the same warehouse beginning and end, and then here again. So interesting. Interesting that book tied a couple of those places together. So, so they wait. They see Asher and Ernest Tin Whistle go in.
Ernest Armand Tin Whistle.
Right.
His British names are always funny.
Silly British people. Yeah, and the next one is like Murphy. Like, I know you haven't burned down any buildings in a while, but if you start to feel the need. So
is Harry's confrontation of Binder partly for show, do you think, or is it completely genuine?
Both.
I think he's making sure that, like, Binder, I was fairly serious, but I don't think he wasn't ever going to push it. I don't think, not in front of Nicodemus and them. He wanted to push it and make sure where it goes down, but like he backs down so easily, and everything. Like, I think it is just he's sowing seeds of discord wherever he can. I think if he had run into Binder on a job and they were on opposite sides, he absolutely would have, like, put the hurt on him and everything like that. But for this thing, it's.
But I mean, I think there was some goodwill when Binder basically helped out in the turncoat on the island. As kind of the idea that someone needs to be human. It's like, oh, you're right. And everyone was just kind of like bonding right there, even though they were on opposite sides.
Yeah, but then he follows that up with "Don't ever come back."
Right.
Sure, because he doesn't want the bad guy in Chicago, but he's definitely the least bad guy in that room.
But that was a mercy in that regard, because he should have just locked the guy up or thrown him in wizard jail or say Demon Reach.
I mean, I got
right.
There's no wizard jail for what he did there, but regardless, I really liked him in Turncoat. I thought he was an interesting character, but he's probably my favorite character in Skin Games.
He's definitely there's a lot of characterization and stuff like that, and you can really feel the Mark Shepard vibes and everything. So, but
that's exactly who I had in mind.
Right. And it's funny because Mark Shepard's not bald or chubby enough to pull it off, but like
no, that's why it was always Mark Shepard, and then I thought to myself, wait, no, he's more like Ray Winstone.
Who?
He's.
I don't know.
Did you ever see The Departed?
A long time ago.
Yeah,
that's not gonna work. I don't know. I'll send you a picture next time.
Okay, cool. All right. So they do have a brief discussion, Harry and Karen, about, do you have any of the swords? Is Sonya going to show up?
Right.
And Sonya doesn't show up, but for very good reasons. And the swords don't show up yet for very good reasons.
Spoilers.
Yeah. But Karen has this thing of like, if it was supposed to be here, it would be. It's just not one of their things right now.
It's not their fight.
Yeah.
Actually, it's just Nicodemus exploiting the system. It seems like. I feel like he specifically set the thing up in Afghanistan and knowing there's only one sword.
Well, yeah, Iran, and yes.
Absolutely.
Because Tessa was also supposed to be there. They set it up so that Tessa would also not interfere.
Right. It was two birds and one stone for sure, so.
Yeah, well, that turned out.
It's still mostly worked. I mean,
yeah.
So.
I don't know. Sonya was away, sure, but Tessa came back and.
Well, then all of the other, like Thorn Namshiel, which is one that.
Well, he's gone.
Nicodemus didn't trust. He was in Iran, so therefore he can't be in Chicago to backstab Nicodemus.
Was he in this one? I thought his coin's still gone. Isn't that the coin that may or may not be with Marcon Guard
I thought that was
Odin
it was Shaggy Feathers that was in Iran.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Magog and Shaggy Feathers.
Okay.
Thorn Namshiel was the one who stole the coins, but his coin's gone.
Right. Because I was with you. Like they don't call them by their angelic names or whatever. Really, they call them by their things. But Magog, I guess, is the name of the fallen. But
yeah.
But yeah, Shaggy Feathers, they don't have an angelic name. So and Thorn and Namshiel obviously is, but yeah, it wasn't.
Well, they mentioned a couple of their names. I don't remember if Shaggy Feathers was ever mentioned as.
There's like 8 out of 30, I think, are named or something like that. So.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Which even still, we don't find that out until later, right? So about the whole Iran thing. So
yeah.
So they get their first job. Basically they show up. There's a bit of posturing. Like
a lot of posturing.
Harry is throwing shit at Nicodemus. He's making sure Binder hasn't forgotten, and Binder's like, "See, I told you this was going to be a problem." And then Asher is like, gets in Harry's face and be like, "I'm sorry, who the fuck are you?" And get out of my partner's face, and talks about how she's fought wardens in the past and everything like that. So, but then they get their job to go to the peninsula. So.
Yeah, one little thing about Asher is always interesting is that she became a warlock because she burned 3 men from the inside out.
Well, yeah, but
I mean, she has her side of it.
Yeah,
and it's not like that's completely wrong. But that is also an extreme form of retribution.
Right. Well, when you
lose control,
scared and angry and have power,
Mm-hmm. That was my main problem with Harry towards the end of this book, is how he reacts to that. It's like, if anybody should know and have a little bit less of a...
She calls him out on that, but that's why he's like, "Look, dude, forget the fact that I'm a warden. I'm not talking to you as a warden right now. I'm talking to you as, somebody else with power. Walk away." So I don't think he had a whole lot of time to argue with her, and he knew that a lot of it wasn't going to get through anyway. So...
Yeah. Also, there's goats in the warehouse. Yeah. A pen of them, like 12.
Totally doesn't matter. So
I like goats.
Never comes up again. So they give him a super secret nickname, Mr. Oberheit.
Yeah. Oh, there's that scene. Harry and Asher, they're getting dressed, and she's totally hitting on him very, very hard. And she comments on his scars and everything. Even touches one on his shoulder. And he has that like electric feeling of touching another person with magic. It's like, that seems incredibly suspicious on a reread of why go out of your way to do that? Why trying to get physical contact so much? And I assume Lashiel was trying to get something.
So wasn't she like the seductress? Don't they literally like that's Nicodemus's whole thing for telling her is that, or for giving Harry that coin, was that she was a world-class sorceress type. She had the magical stuff down, but also that she was a seductress. So he figured she could get through to Harry.
Yeah,
because they talk about that in. I know some of it comes up in Small Favor. The whole like I picked the right coin for you, but I think they named her at some point with that subtitle, basically.
Probably as early as Death Masks when he first offered the coin.
Maybe, yeah, right, because he tries to give him a coin and then later just throws it at him.
And Harry puts the symbol on a donut and then eats the donut, and Fort Hill names her, I think.
Gotcha, right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I took that as touching one other with magic. I took that as just a one of those side effects of being a wizard.
I mean, it could be, but it could also be hiding that Lashiel is trying to do something, or the presence of Lashiel at all.
Right.
It can also be now this is a far out thing. What if there's something to do with Bonnie and Lashiel and Bonnie? Does Lashiel recognize Bonnie in there?
Well, it could be that this is the point where Lashiel is confirming that Bonnie exists, or she already knew and she was just checking.
See, and that's one of the problems I always had is on my first read through is like, where the fuck did Lashiel get all of her information? Because if she's locked in a coin and she was locked in a circle and all this other shit, and then all of a sudden she's like, I know that the shadow died, and I know that you have a baby, and I know that. I was like, how the fuck do you know all this? Harry doesn't know all this, and it's in his head.
Well,
I brought it up.
Essentially, 3 ways this could have happened. There's A, she feels it when the shadow goes and is cognizant of what that sacrifice represents, so she knows what the byproduct is going to be.
Right.
2, since she's the one who does the whisper thing and changes, she's in his head anyway, she can maybe see her in there. 3, she just has a general natural connection to what would have been partly her essence anyway. And so she just kind of can sense these things. Maybe some general combination of all 3.
I like the first one the most.
I think the third one is the only one that makes sense.
Oh.
No, because I don't really buy the whole like she feels when the shadow thing goes, because again she's completely locked out. And how many times has that happened in the course of 2,000 years across 30 fallen angels?
Probably not many.
Because like single digits, because like Sonya dropped a coin and walked away, but did that destroy a shadow? You know, like
the shadow gets destroyed when you take the coin anyway. Even Lash said that, so there was no shadow left in him.
Okay, so every time they touch a coin and then walk away, a shadow gets created, and then it gets reabsorbed, right? If they take up
right, yeah, it becomes part of the whole again because it's just an echo of what the being is.
Yeah, so 3 I think makes the most sense probably for me.
But... I don't know. I like the idea that like because Lashiel knows everything that Lash did, and she knows for as long as that shadow existed, she knows that Lash did a sacrifice out of love, that what it's going to represent because that was a being in Harry's mind space.
I think there's something there might be a simple solution. Maybe E.G. mentioned this with the sight. The wizard's sight sees the true reality. Maybe the angelic sight is literally just seeing all of that constantly, and so she can constantly tease out with knowledge and experience what all these little flecks in the art. I mean, just like a tracker in the woods or something would see something. So she could probably simply
I don't doubt that in general, an angel like someone like Uriel could look at Harry and just to sort of gleam all this stuff. And I don't necessarily.
And Uriel knows anyway because they were working together to keep Harry alive.
Right.
What?
Because it was Demon Reach and Mab.
Demon Reach, Mab, and the Parasite, but Uriel obviously knew everything because he made the bet or like pulling Harry's soul out and run around Chicago.
Right,
it'll work out.
In general,
sure.
If Uriel didn't know, for whatever that's worth, and he just walked up to Harry on the street, I'm sure when he looks at him, he can see that kind of stuff. And I'm sure someone like Lashiel could too, but I don't know if it would require someone like Hannah, who's got her as host, would have to actively be using her. I don't know how much she's seen through just being there, because she still is in stasis until, I don't know, because we haven't seen exactly. I assume someone like Anduriel, for instance, knows all the things going on through Nicodemus's eyes, but that's also how they work. So I mean, it's fine in principle. I'm sure when you see that eye come up on her head, I'm sure she can see it in Harry.
Well, and we know that angels can see in the Dresden Files verse. When Harry begins to open his sight, the guardian angel with the ghost story closes his sight again. So there's a bit of interaction, but also he can literally see that Harry is opening the sight. There's some signifier that's
right. They can see the world in much different frequency that you can think of, I'm sure. But if she was just looking at him then at that moment, or just throughout this time, it would be a little of a stretch to simply assume that she knows what she is and why she is just by looking at that.
I feel like, she has to know this going into it, right? Because
like she could see what Bonnie is, but she wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, that's because of me, just by looking at her necessarily.
Another problem would be Anduriel and Tessa, who are constantly around Harry, plus whoever else among the fallen shows up. If Lash can see it, everyone else can see it. So the touching thing is a good uniqueness to
right. Lash. Like it makes sense to know if it's part of her, she can sense it. Because if Nicodemus knows, that's something he would have easily exploited.
Right. Exactly.
During these events, if you could just quote unquote see it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because I'm trying to reconcile like all of her monologue in the vault later too. It seems like she knows this going in. Like it's never clear when Asher gets the coin, but I'm pretty sure she had it before the job.
She got it after changes, but before the job.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like it only matters that she got it within days or weeks before the job, versus it's not like he converted her while they're going around for the 3 days.
She got the coin before taking the job, but after teaming up with Binder, because Binder was telling her, like, don't get too personal, like kind of stay focused on the money and all of his little rules.
Right.
So it was only probably
take favors.
A few weeks.
Too many strings. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, each of the 3 reasons I said give her the foreknowledge well before.
Yeah.
She had it for a while. I don't know when Binder and she matched up though, because she talks about how after Harry destroys the Fellowship of St. Giles, that the Denarians took her in at some point, And if she had met up with Binder, I can't imagine she would have thrown in with the Denarians, because Binder wouldn't have gotten out of the way to buy her a sandwich, but he would have made sure she was taken care of and got her cut, so that she could take care of herself. So I'm not saying it happened like immediately after changes or anything, but it definitely, she threw in with the Denarians before she met Binder.
I don't think so. I think it was while she knew Binder.
We'll get to that point when we get to her monologue. At the moment, we're still on chapter 6 or something.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So
we made it 6 chapters. Woo.
But I do have the weird question of what is Asher/Lashiel actually trying to accomplish by getting intimate contact with Harry? Because if they're trying to pull the parasite out right then, it's not going to work. It's just going to kill him, right? And they're not going to have the ability to use him to get through the Gate of Ice.
She's okay.
Lashiel's a seductress. It's just in her nature.
Right, and she's okay killing Harry to get Bonnie because she talks about
Turbo Slut always or something that like.
She talks about how she's going to destroy Harry to pull out the parasite, but
right. But
again,
you can't do that before
the gate. We're not sure that Harry is actually fully needed, right? Because like to get through the ice gate, there's some discussion about how Asher probably could just like burn her way through.
But that would still burn Nicodemus too, because if Lashiel did something that resulted in Harry's death, then that would ruin the deal between Nicodemus and Mab, and that would like ruin Nicodemus's reputation.
It could just be another way to put Harry off his guard. It doesn't have to be some like giant machination to keep him off balance, to not see it when the betrayal comes. And if he falls in love with Asher on this job and then he gets his heart broken when the turn happens and he's emotionally off base, like all of these little things add up, and a fallen angel would kind of see that, especially one who is a seductress, right? Like it could be a lot of things, but I don't think there's like some huge machination here where it's like she had to do this so that she stole part of Harry's soul, or some nonsense. Like it's about pushing buttons, so that if Harry starts sleeping with Asher, for example, during the job, then he's not paying attention to some other things that he should be paying attention to. And it's mostly just because Harry is Harry that he doesn't, Binder wouldn't because of his rules, but if you'd put, a number of other people from the books in that room, they totally would have gotten it on,
if we're going back to when she knew and how she knew about Bonnie, the exact quote is, meaning that since a whisper in your ear that should have killed you seems to have failed, I intend to skip the subtlety, rip your head apart, and collect our child. She's far too valuable a resource to be allowed to die with you. That seems like she was either planning it right then and there when she was doing the whisper because she knew she was in there because she was in his head, or gleaned that from being in his head and was planning on, after he's dead, skipping to that part.
I had been on the fence on whether or not the whisper thing was about the changes thing or if it was the shadow. And I think I had come down on the side of the shadow until you just reread it. And then it's like, okay, the whisper means the literal whisper, where the whisper was to push him to commit suicide.
Yeah, but basically. How could Lashiel actually get in his head and changes? Because he'd already, the shadow was gone. He hadn't touched the coin.
Well, that's where the connection to Bonnie potentially comes in. That's part of her.
Via her connection to her spiritual daughter, she gets to be in his head.
Because, I mean, it's a cheat, so things happen where the other side gets to balance it, but that doesn't mean it's impossible.
Right. And again, Lashiel is an angel, fallen or otherwise. She literally still has the power to unmake at least planets, if not galaxies, like Uriel does.
But she does have the restrictions of being in a coin or with a vessel that's carrying that coin. So how do you act outside of it without a person?
We don't know how much those restrictions play out. I think we've been assuming they're much more restrictive than they are, which has always been my problem, right? Like, if she's in a coin, she shouldn't be able to act, right? If she's in a circle, in the concrete, in the ground, in a coin, she sure as fuck shouldn't be able to act, but it doesn't seem like that's the case.
And then you're adding, now she's got this tether of at least some essence of her is still swimming around in Harry's head, plus he is in no mental state to fight it off.
And maybe. I think this goes further than, like, take a mortal child, for example, right? Take Molly. Molly could be tracked through Charity's blood, right? This
only
past that because this isn't a mingling of DNA. That's an amalgamation of spirit, and they kind of go out of their way to talk about how Bonnie even kind of makes herself out of some of Harry's memories. So even though the end result is that she's kind of her own thing and she's an independent creature, because angels and soul and whatever else, maybe, she literally is still part Lashiel. So Lashiel's able to drill into her with that part of her soul as being part of it. Because, I mean, an angel is soul, right? We have that whole conversation. So.
Mm-hmm.
You're not convinced.
No.
So, yeah.
Man.
So this is where we wrap up then. They basically, he tells them what the kind of money they could be making off this trip, and he still hints at what he's getting at, but no one knows what it is yet.
Yeah, because, so they're getting $2 million each right off the bat, and then they can have up to $22 million because of all of the diamonds and shit that they can go steal.
Yeah, up to 20 million additional, which I think is kind of funny because they don't have any fucking idea what's in the vault. So,
well, that's the thing. I mean, he says a plain order of magnitude, so that's just in general.
10 times much.
Yeah. But I'm sure pick the right things, and you could have easily had hundreds of millions, depending on.
Some of it's like the artwork and shit's probably going to be hard to actually sell.
Well, he says as much. I mean, if you can take it and it doesn't hinder us, go nuts. But that's the other thing. I mean, even Valmont says diamonds are the most bang for the buck, which is why she takes all of them.
And it also comes down to like having to watch your ass on the way out, right? Like if you went in with a group of like-minded people and you weren't worried about getting ganked on the way out, then sure, take 4 backpacks and put 2 Monets under each arm and then run out.
I mean, yeah, but plus you're in a supernatural prison with shades that can come and chase you at any moment, and any number of unseen terrors down there. So just fill one backpack up that you can carry with shit and get the fuck out.
Right. Fill a backpack full of backpacks.
There you go. Or what? Yeah, what is it? The that charm in Harry Potter that gives you like unlimited space in a bag. Just scoop up everything.
Right. Harry probably doesn't play around with interdimensional spaces because he can't even learn how to fly. Yeah. He doesn't even know how to fly. So.
It goes against normal physics. Harry Potter magic has never had a problem with going against normal physics.
Yeah.
I will say, because we've skipped around a whole bunch, that we're kind of at the beginning of chapter 8.
Is that the
Go team?
The what? The hotel?
Yeah. That's the other thing.
Well, so chapter 8 starts with them in the dressing room again, but we kind of like there's other things we skipped over in like the discussion in chapter 7. So I was like, well, we'll just.
Yeah. So we'll end this with saying they need one more player, and that's Anna Valmont.
And then Binder's job is to go pick up Goodman Gray from the train station.
Right.
So yeah,
because he's worked with him before.
Yeah, so. And it should be someone that Gray recognizes. Okay. So
it has to be, yeah.
Chapter 8 or so.
Yay! So how many chapters are there in this one? Like 52?
Good question.
254, something like that.
So 37 more episodes, and then we'll have peace talks, and we'll be good to go.
No, at this rate, it'll only be 7 episodes. But we're gonna speed up a little.
Yeah, some of this stuff, I really feel like a lot of the in-between stuff is like, Harry argues with Nicodemus. They tell him to shut up. Harry eats a donut.
I was going to say, yeah, even the stuff upcoming with the Fomor is kind of big.
I mean, we'll probably have a whole episode about Butters.
Harry gets his ass kicked by the Jenna Squad. Harry eats a donut.
You know what? Let's pretend Butters.
He does not eat donuts. He saves them.
Yeah.
He cleanses them in the fiery belly of a wizard.
Right.
Yeah, Butters isn't even in this book. I don't know what you're talking about.
We'll
Butters
skip
the best. Yes.
We'll skip a lot of stuff, but once we get to the vault, it's going to be a fucking crawl
think
again. So.
Any of the dialogues are probably going to be the part where we get slowed down, but there's a lot of action that we can there's explosions and blah.
That's what I'm saying. Upcoming, where they're going.
Guys, just like making the best book sound less good, and I'm not about that.
It really is amazing. We just haven't gotten to the amazing parts. Really, we've got introduced the bad guys. Binder goes on a milk run. Harry gets hit on by a total hot chick that he doesn't know is secretly a Black Widow trying to eat him. Like literally, I mean that's Harry flirts with Murphy, but kind of not really. That's what we've got so far in 8 chapters. So. The good stuff is the donuts are coming, and the Jenna Squaw and the Goodman Gray, and the banter really is a big part of why I like this book. And so,
sure,
you get
banter is like
right
top quality.
So that's why between this one and Turncoat, they're like my favorite. So,
well, so if that's where we're ending, well, this has been the Dresden Files podcast, brought to you by the Broken Jars Network. Whee! And you should check out other shows, including Great Scott, which is all about The Office, the American one. And they're almost done, which they've been almost saying. And they might be starting something else. There's High Fantasy on hiatus.
Not as high as you,
applause. Though. Oh!
Dumb joke.
Let's see what else. We also got Sim Talk, which is a very professional podcast about very professional simulations about professions, and you should check it out. It's actually super serious and super awesome. But we also have DMs Anonymous, which is a support group with Andreas here. Do you have any recent news on episodes or anything?
Nope. Actually, the last episode was the same as last time, where we talked about inserting your players into plots because they always try to avoid it.
Oh yeah. Very good. Let's see what else we got. And this was at Broken Jars Network. Oh yes, support us on various platforms, including DriveThruRPG. DriveThruRPG is pretty nifty. Yeah, we have to start chipping in for the Zoom stuff since Google Hangouts is kaput as far as we're able to use it. So definitely check that out. There's also Patreon. We still have a Patreon, right?
Yeah,
Patreon.
Like, the main way that we get said monies to be exchanged for goods and services. So
yeah, of which you can watch us argue about all things that make us angry in our own Broken Jars Discord, like Star Wars.
Discord.
Super
and bacon.
important.
And bacon. If you want to be up on the bacon and the something that we were talking about just before the podcast. Oh well. Anyway, Broken Jars Network, Dresden Files podcast. It's about the Dresden Files. Thank you.